Hello, everyone. This is B. Wendy Jackson, your lovely host of the Empower to Empower You podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. If you have been tuning in since January 2020, then you already know that this podcast is about all things Jesus Christ, mental health, anything to help you think better so you can live in freedom. If you change your thoughts, you change your life. You already know that. But if this is your first time joining in today, thank you so much for tuning in. I pray that you are encouraged. Every episode is packed with information, inspiration, and encouragement for you. And I have been having amazing guests. And so today I want to introduce you. I want to introduce to you, excuse me, to Miss Nellie Harden. And we're going to talk a little bit about equipping God's daughters with confidence. Just a little bit about Nellie before we get in. Nellie is a wife. She's a mother to four daughters. She's an author. She's a speaker in the space of family life and leadership. She focuses on helping God's daughters to know their worth, have a firm grasp of their value, their identity in Christ, so that they can become self-disciplined leaders of their lives and live the lives that they were created for. Nellie, welcome to the Empower to Empower You podcast today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. By the way, I just love your name. It just kind of rings out of my Nelly. It's just a very unique name. Well, just this has nothing to do with the podcast today, but what was the inspiration? I'm a thing of names. I love names.
Oh, I love it. I love it. No, so back in the 70s when I was born, they didn't know if I was going to be a boy or a girl. They didn't do the whole sonogram thing back then, really. But so I was born. I was actually an emergency cesarean. Mom was in labor with me for 3 days. I was an emergency cesarean. I was actually stillborn, and they brought me back, right? So the beginning of my life was already tumultuous right there. But they were not expecting me to be a girl. So after all of this, and my mom is like, in a haze from everything going on, and my dad was there, and she's like, I don't even have a girl name. And he said, well, my sister passed away when she was just 3 years old. She was really young, and she had Rye syndrome back then. And so her name was Nelda. Can we name her that? And my mom goes, oh, only if we can name her Nellie or call her Nellie. And so, yeah, my real name, so to speak, is Nelda, but I've gone by Nellie literally since day one. And so, yeah, that's
Wow. You know what? You just confirmed my thought and belief that everybody has a story.
mm,
I ask you just as just a, where does your name? What was the inspiration? And even that is attached to a story. Isn't it amazing?
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. So let's get into it. This is a really good segue into tell me 5 words that you would use to describe who you are.
Oh, it's a tough question when turn the mirror back on yourself. And, I can give you 5 words right now about yourself. You're just so amazing and light up everything around you. But so I have always been fiercely loyal. So that is one word that comes to mind. I had even when I was in high school, I had two long-term relationships, and then I started the relationship with my now husband, and I had someone tell me before, they used the words, you are a serial monogamist. And I was like, I don't like, are you trying to insult me? I don't know if that's and I was like, yes, I guess I am, and I'm just going to stand on that principle.
Absolutely.
It was in high school, not in my adult life, but they're like, you just like stick with it, and I'm loyal to whatever passions I have and things. So loyal is definitely one of them. As we get along and more of my story comes out, you'll probably notice that perseverance is something that I live by. I have had to claw my way back, claw my way up in a few instances. My
Mm,
husband and I are both very hard workers, so there's that too. So persevering, and then I really hope, because I live by the principle of kindness, and I hope that kind would be a word that I can use to describe myself. And then empathetic. I to a fault almost. I am so empathetic that it can get me, down and feeling so much. So in a room of crowded people,
Yeah.
I feel so much.
Mhm.
And that takes me to my last word, which is introverted. So I am definitely an introvert, but I spend so much of my life speaking and getting out there and working with people, because I am called to the work that I do, but also I need that recovery time of self. And, funny quick story, after church this past week, we went out to lunch, and it had been a busy morning of classes and church and serving and doing all of these things. And when we finally got to lunch, I noticed that it was like a one stall bathroom, like it locks and you're just in there. It wasn't a multi-stall. And I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom for a second. I just went in there and I sat. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. All right. Like, not to, I loved where I was. I love the people I was around. I just needed just a good 5 minutes of breathing, and so
Yeah. I can relate to you in that manner very well. So I think people think that just because we're called, people see us, they hear you talking, they see you minister, right?
mhm,
Everything that you do is ministry, whether it's
right.
speaking or sharing or coaching or counseling for me as well. And it looks like we're introverts. It looks like I'm an introvert, right? To you, but I am not.
Yeah, it looks like we're an extrovert. Yeah.
Extra, yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert. Excuse me, thank you. It looks like I'm an, but I am not. I
Yeah.
I, I need that one-on-one time to recharge because my husband is the opposite. He could be around people and talk all
Right.
day and he's energized, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm drained. Like this is too much. I'm overstimulated. It's too much. So I totally
100%.
understand. Yes. So why this topic, equipping God's daughters with confidence?
Mm.
Why is that such a topic of interest? Why are you so passionate to this topic or about this topic?
Well, it certainly comes from a personal story of myself. And so back in those early days of my life, you know how I came into the world now, just from my name story, I guess. Well, my dad, he passed away when I was just a year and a half old. It was an accident, and so he passed away. And then, mom got remarried when I was 8, had a brother and sister. And, it was all good things. It was just a lot of things, and we moved a couple of times in there. And so I graduated early and left home at 17 and moved 7 hours away from home to a place I had literally never been to except for a overnight orientation, one other time. And I did not know it yet, nor would I have had the words to put it together, but I really did not have a foundation in me of worth or esteem or confidence built within me. And when a young woman is just released out into the world without that foundation, we so often end up just chasing our worth anywhere and everywhere that calls out to us. Come over here and you'll be worthy. Do this and you'll be worthy. Achieve this and you'll be worthy. Be with this person, you'll be worthy, etc. And
Mhm.
that is what I did. And within, the first 8 weeks, just 8 weeks of my college experience, any semblance of identity that I had that was loosely put together or grounding was completely shattered.
Yeah.
And I truly just lost myself and I lost myself and gained a whole lot of shame and guilt and grief.
Mhm.
And then I ended up staying back. Everyone else was out, and I was like, nope, I'll stay in and do laundry and watch. I was going to say Netflix, but Netflix was not around back then. Let me
Yeah.
just tell you. Or maybe it was, and it was like go to the store and pass in this DVD. That type of Netflix. Most people don't remember. But anyway, so But my background is in biology and psychology, and then throughout my experience, and I got married, and then I had infertility issues, and then I had 4 daughters in 4 years, right? The pendulum has swung every which way, for me. And then we almost lost my husband after our 4 kids, right after our 4 kids were born. And I realized that I was very deep in my own healing process. And I had four, little women looking back at me, looking for myself at that point in time. It was really just myself. My husband was so sick at that point. We were just trying to get him to go through, but now he's okay. He's here today. But it was really just them looking at me and, it's silently saying, please equip me for the world that is to come, right? And that for my life that is to come. And
Yeah.
so it was really at that point that I was like, okay, I have 6,570 days. That's how many days are in 18 years. That is my highest impact zone for these young women. And PS, I also have to build this for myself along the way.
Yeah.
And so it was just this process, this voyage, if you will, that started happening back then, and that has developed along the way, because I feel like it is such a loss for a woman, a young woman, a mature woman. It's such a loss for a woman and such a loss for the world when a young woman isn't able to come to fruition with what they are called to be and their true purpose, because they're so bogged down and distracted with and blinded with or behind a wall of grief, shame, distraction, comparison, etc.
That is so true. Just if you could, what's a small practical example of how you were able to instill confidence in your girls?
Well, my daughters now are between 14 and 19. So we are in it, all things adolescence, check the box.
Yeah.
We're there. And but one of the things that we make sure that we do is, so you want to connect, communicate, and have clarity with everyone in your family and friends, etc. But especially when we're in the role of architect, right? I call parents architects. We're planning, designing, and building the beginning of someone else's life. So we are truly building her beginning. And in order to do that, you need to be connected. So a simple logistical thing you want to do is have one-on-one time every single week. And so every week on Mondays and Thursdays, and we do this even for our college girl, we Zoom with her for our one-on-one time. We alternate. So I go with one daughter, my husband goes with another, the same 2 daughters every Monday, the same 2 daughters every Thursday, and we alternate. So our daughters know that at their assigned time, either Monday or Thursday at 9 p.m., I'm going to get mom or dad in my room or on my Zoom, and we're going to talk and we're going to, explore some things. And sometimes those are really difficult talks. Sometimes they're just, hey, this is what's going on. Sometimes it's, hey, look what I've created. It just depends on what is needed then. But when you find yourself only connecting with your kids or your spouse or whoever that is, whenever there's quote unquote trouble, then those connections are not going to be solid and grounded. You need to be able to rely on a connection and then be able to explore what's inside of that connection each time. So just one-on-one time each week is really, really, really important.
That is so huge. I love that. You said that we connect, communicate, and seek clarity. And I
Yeah.
love that the parents are architects. We plan, we build, and develop. Did I
Yep.
get that correctly?
Yep. Plan, design, and plan, design, and build. Yep.
Love that. I love that. So how would you define, somebody's listening to you, we're talking about equipping God's daughters with
Yeah.
confidence. The first thing I would say is that first of all, we need to know without a doubt that we are God's daughters, and that is
Right.
happens through salvation. I
Right.
hear Well, everybody's God's children. Everybody's not God's child, according to the word of God. We become God's children through accepting Jesus Christ, the Lord and personal Savior. And we can go on and go forth with just the salvation piece, and then you become a child of God. So, how would you define confidence?
Oh, well, confidence is when you can. So there's a difference between confidence and life confidence in God, right? And for parents, here's the thing: you and I, we aren't born already having that worldly choice for God that we make later, and when we choose salvation, like you were talking about.
Mhm.
So we as parents need to step in and be that for our kids until they know that and they can seek it from the Lord. And so, really establishing this foundation of worth, esteem, and confidence. So, esteem means value and appreciation of self. Confidence, if you think about it like a pyramid, worth is that very bottom layer. They need to know they are worthy, not I feel worthy now, but in 5 minutes I won't, or I think I'm worthy. What they need to know they are worthy. And there are 5 pillars of that, and it is to be seen and heard and loved and belong and have a purpose. Those are the 5 pillars of worth that literally have always been and are and will be. Those are the 5 pillars of worth. And so, us as parents, we need to be sure that we are showing them those things until they can know that it comes from God first, and then self, and then world. Because we want them waking up in the morning with this confidence saying, wake up, sun is shining, saying, what can I do for the world today? What can I do? How can God shine through me today? Where can I shine light for God today? Right? What can I do for the world? Not waking up, which is how so many of our women and young women do today, and say, what is the world going to tell me about myself today? What is the world going to define me as today? Right? No, that is not confidence. That is just riding the very violent waves of fads and what have and trends in the world.
Yes.
So the first part of confidence is knowing your worth, right? With those 5 pillars. And then it is about value and appreciation of self, which really comes down to trust. Do I trust myself? Do I trust myself to walk in the direction of the person I want to become? Right? So many of our young women, especially if you are out there chasing worth, or you don't know Christ yet, or what have you, you're just making a decision in the moment. You're being a chameleon. Oh, in this situation, I'm going to do this. In this situation, I'm going to do this. And this. But here's the thing, we only have one true character, right? And we build that over time. We choose that over time. Identity is such a, hot topic these days. And people are saying, oh, go find yourself. Well, I'm sorry, but yourself is not like a flower in a field of daisies that you're like, oh, I need to go find which one is me. No, you decide who you're going to be, and then you take the next step to get there, and then the
Yeah.
next, and then the next. And that is how you build trust in yourself. You say you're going to do something and you actually follow through and do it. And that is all the way from thought to feeling to decision to action. And then you have end results. And so that is a whole process of learning how to trust yourself and value and appreciation, which all equal esteem. So confidence then is at the top of that. That is true belief in self, that I know I am worthy. I value and appreciate myself. I can trust myself so that when I see a challenge or a hurdle coming up, I can see it, right? I have the vision to see it's coming. I have the wisdom to know how to make a plan, and I have the discipline to actually go over that and achieve a wanted result on the other side. And that's truly what confidence comes in.
Yeah, that's so good. Wow. Okay. You just gave a lot of great gems. Like I'm running out of space taking notes. You mentioned the 5 pillars of worth:
hmm
seen, to be loved, to be heard, to belong, and to know that you have a purpose.
Yes.
Hmm. And would you say that we receive our worth first and foremost from the Lord and what
Yes.
He says about us? And then after we receive it and believe it, then we not only give it to ourselves, but we're able to flow and give it to others, like our kids.
Yes,
Other, would you say that?
absolutely. So, there my husband and I, we didn't come to know the Lord until our 30s, right? And so we were way late to the game, but let me tell you, when we went to that first church service, some beautiful soul invited us to church Christmas service in 2010 after a very tumultuous year. And we went in, and within 5 minutes, I was like, all right, I feel like I'm home, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was, I guess, another year and a half until I was baptized. I had a lot of shame and guilt from that first 8 weeks of college that I referred to earlier, that I had held on to so tightly that it was sewn into myself. And then when I finally started releasing it, I was able to build, my relationship with Christ. And Christ isn't going to take it from you. You need to hand it over to him, right? And so that moment that I finally did release, I was at a discipleship retreat, and I looked at him, and Christ and I, we were like in a wrestling match because I did not want to let go of this, right? And but I just looked into his eyes, and I realized, if I don't give this to him, then I'm telling him he died for me for nothing. And
Mhm.
I cannot look him in the eye and say that, right?
Yeah.
So I humbly just handed it over. And
Sure.
that's when I finally gave it. But where I'm getting at is that after that, I was able to start developing. And there was 4 stages of my faith journey. And, so much so, it's literally tattooed on my wrist right here, because I need to be reminded of this so often when I get stuck at one of these. And the first one is to believe in, right? That time that you believe in it, you give your heart and soul over. But the next step is to be in, right? So you believe in, and then you're in. You be in the light, which is the subject of all of this. God is the light. So you believe in the light, God, you be in the light. And sometimes you need to just sit and saturate yourself in it, right? You need to go out in nature and listen to the birds and look at all of creation around you and understand the mastermind that was behind that creativity. Open the Bible, get into scripture, and truly read it, right? And so that's being in it. And then, to your point, which is where this was all circling around to, you can be the light for others, right?
Yeah.
So you believe in, you be in, and then you are the light for others. And that's when it's so overflowing inside of you that you can be the light for others. And then you just follow the way. So believe in, be the light,
Wow.
follow the way.
I love that. So I know that you said that, a lot of this may not have been instilled in you.
Mhm.
I've heard people say that a child receives the worth, and for people who cannot see me, I'm putting air quotes, but in most cases, a child receives his or her worth from parents. And
Yeah.
so at a young age, with not having your father, I'm not sure what your relationship was with your mom to mentor and influence that. And so who are the people that influence that the thing that you and your husband are giving to your daughters? Who gave that to you? I like, Godfidence. Who are the people that mentored you and instilled that in you growing up?
Um, so it took me a while to understand, because I grew up in a secular home, and
Yes.
so that really wasn't a part of growing up. Although, so I grew up in a secular home, but we had the title of being Catholic, right? If someone asked, I didn't even know really what that meant per se. It was like, I'm Caucasian and I'm Catholic, and and I like Pop Tarts, and it just kind of was one of those labels, but it didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know what that meant, and so all that to say, I had a title of something growing up, but it wasn't really a part of our lives.
Yeah.
But my mom what is a very strong woman. And I mean, here she was, widowed at 23 years old with a baby, and she endured a lot and had to really put, a very strong foot forward in order to get through what she got through. And so the strength part, the endurance part, some of the perseverance part, I definitely see that I was able to glean from my mom. But when it comes to people that pointed me toward Christ and what that means, and it really for me has always been born out of service. And I love community service. In high school, I was part of a community service team, and which was associated with a youth program. But I didn't really, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's a youth program, but I'm here for the service, and I wanted to do service. And then when I went to college in second semester freshman year, I joined a community because I was so lost. And but there was a community service co-ed fraternity group on campus, Alpha Phi Omega, and I was like, I need to ground myself back in service. That is where I am going to start to feel whole again and put the pieces back together. And lo and behold, I met my husband at the first meeting. And so, it's always been service oriented. So the people I've served with, have been a huge part of that, and the youth leaders that I had in high school that just guided me gently and didn't force anything, but definitely talked about things. And the verse of thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I used to sing that all the time in high school, and I would just sing it and sing it. I didn't know who the light was really, and I just sang it, and it just brought me so much peace. And later on in my 30s when I came to the Lord, I was like, "Oh, that's in the Bible." I was it's this moment. So
Yeah,
I know. And so people have been there just throughout the journey. But honestly, first and foremost, it was me getting into the word, and it was my direct just connection one-on-one time with the Lord when I opened that scripture up in my 30s, that is what brought me hands down.
that's good. That's good. I know that there are many things that would probably impact a woman's confidence. I mean, we don't even have the time to identify a whole list of them. But just take a moment and highlight maybe, the top 3 to 5 things that you've seen that impact a woman's confidence.
The top three I would definitely say are comparison.
Oh my God.
And yeah,
Yes.
comparison is huge, especially today. It's so easy to compare today, easier than ever before. And people pleasing would be another one. And then I would just say perfectionism too. So perfectionism, people pleasing, and comparison.
Good. So what if a woman came to you and she is maybe dealing with all of those? She's
Yeah.
identified all of those. You can kind of hear it in her assessment in her presentation. What might be some strategies that you may suggest, or how might you navigate walking through a woman to build her confidence back in the Lord, or just confidence, period?
Well, I really believe that with people, you need to let them define their own vocabulary, if you will, because
Yeah.
so often they hear these things like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. And when it comes to perfectionism, let's say. And so just asking them, well, what does perfection mean to you? Is
Mhm.
that something you really strive for? Why do you strive for that? What would you gain if you had that? Right. So just asking a lot of questions. And so often they get to a point that they're like, I guess I don't know what I would gain. And the thing that maybe I would gain, I don't actually want. Right. And then with comparison, they, helping them understand that what they're comparing against, first of all, is probably not real. And second of all, helping her understand that you were created you and they were created them. And the
Mhm.
world didn't need two of them, or else they would have been identical, like fully identical twins, or, something like that. But the
Yeah,
world did need you. And so where are you going to serve the world, right? Where are you truly fulfilled in your gifts and your passions? And how are you going to serve the world with those things, right? Because it's all about what you're equipped with, naturally, and your natural abilities, and what does the world need. And it's when those two things combine that you have actual magic happening, God magic happening. And so often when they are trying to compare themselves, they're just trying to go against someone else's false standard instead of a real standard, and they don't understand their own worth.
absolutely. So let's just kind of make it more, let's just kind of talk about the specific woman. Specific
Yeah.
woman comes to you and, well, first of all, let me ask, how do you serve? How do you serve the women? Where are you working and serving in terms of, or where are you doing ministry? And
Hmm.
what does it look like in this current season in terms of equipping God's daughters with confidence? Coaching, ministering, Bible teaching, talk a little bit about that.
All. So I work internationally online. So I do one-on-one sessions with women, or with people raising young women, or with the young women themselves. So I do one-on-one sessions. I have a group, well, not a group coaching. You go through it individually, a self-paced coaching program called Take the Lead, which is
Mm.
all about loving and leading your daughter to a place that she loves and leads herself.
Yes,
And so there's that, and then there's downloads and things that you can do. And then I work in my community locally, and travel for speaking and work as well. So I try to, help as many as I can. The other night we were in a movie theater, and I saw, we were seeing a movie together as a family, and I saw this group of young women that were obviously struggling with many things. And my daughter could just tell by my facial expression, I guess. I guess I wasn't masking well. And she looks at me and she was like, "Mom, it's okay. You can't help everyone." And I was like, "Oh, but I want to, I just want to help everyone." And but my point being that I'm always going to strive and be where I can when I can, to help who I can. So yeah, one-on-ones and coaching programs is the best direct way to be with me, and then of course socials. Um, but yeah, and the people pleasing, we didn't get to that one, and I just wanted to say real quick for the people pleasing, I almost said people pleasing place. The position of that, why? Like why is it so important that you please this person and that person? And it gets to be like comparison. Like, why is it so important to you? And what do you gain from it? And how is this spreading, the word of Christ? How is this spreading light? How is this, spreading your passions and your gifts when you are so encumbered by pleasing, this one person, or maybe these 100 people, if they're always going around being a chameleon trying to please everybody.
Mhm.
So when you encounter people like this, whether it's a friend or a daughter, a sister, a mother, or whoever, a client, we always just want to really get, first of all, calm. You never want to speak out of a place that's not calm. And second of all, curious. Ask a lot of questions, listen, and ask more questions. And you'll help them uncover so much about themselves.
Absolutely. There is listening, the art of listening is such a gift and a skill that is so important. So if a woman is listening to you, which a woman is listening to you, and let's say she feels defeated. She feels, I mean, she's struggling with low self-esteem. She doesn't have belief. She's been beaten down by life's difficulties. She had plans and maybe all the plans, failed, so to speak. And she's had a life of pain. She's had a life
Yeah.
of pain. She's hearing you and she doesn't know where to begin. She just doesn't know where to begin. Take a moment. How would you encourage this woman?
First of all, one of the things that I've had to use many times is Lot's wife. When I think about Lot's wife, right? So Lot and his wife were saved from Sodom and Gomorrah before it was all destroyed. And they are walking away, and she had one instruction, and that is do not look back. Just keep moving forward. Do not look back. And she looked back,
Mm.
and she turned into a pillar of salt. And we all know that salt is a preservative, right? And so when I think of Lot's wife, it's such a, what do they call that? A tale of uh, don't do that, right? I'm missing the word right now.
Right.
Cautionary tale. There we go. So it is a cautionary tale. And because, so she turned around and she was stuck in preserving her past. So she was stuck as a preservative of her past forever, right? And she didn't get to receive the gift that God was giving her by just moving forward. And I've had to use that for myself and for clients and friends, repeatedly. Just keep your eyes forward and keep moving forward. It doesn't mean the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you aren't still carrying a piece of it with you. It doesn't mean that as hard as that past is, that, because God can use everything for good, right? We have free will in this world, and some people use that free will to hurt you. And that happens quite often, unfortunately. But God can turn everything for good, and you can too. So using that can propel you forward, but just keep moving forward and do not get stuck as a preservative of your past. And you will be able to receive the gifts that God has ahead for you, right? And so that would be where I would always start. And then the question is, what is your next step? We don't have to think 10 steps down the road. We don't have to think 5 steps down the road. I just want to talk to you about what your personal next one step is. And that's going to be different for every single person. Maybe it's a conversation they need to have. Maybe it's an apology that they need to give. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
forgiveness that they need to grant. Maybe it's somewhere they need to go, right? It just depends on that person and what their story is. But that next one step toward healing is what we need to focus on.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Nellie. Let's try to land the plane. Talk a little bit about your resources. Where can people find you? And then any final things that you feel really convinced to share that I didn't ask you about.
Yeah, well, as far as resources and things and ways to contact me or work with me, it is all on nellieharden.com. So that's NELLIEHARDEN.com. And so my social channels, get connected with our community, and I will be in your inbox every Friday, saying hello. There's downloads and articles and resources, and our program, all of that is on there. I like to keep it simple. The world's complicated enough. So everything you can find through that one avenue right there. And then as far as something I want to say is just, it's never too late. It is never too late for you. If you still have breath in your lungs, it is never too late to get back up, rise back up, and start moving forward. Okay. You can absolutely do it. And it's harder as an adult. I'm not going to lie to you. It is harder as an adult to build this foundation than it is for someone that is in their first 18 to 25 years. That's when our brains are being formed, connections are being connected and severed, and all of that. It's when our brain is more malleable, it's more flexible. But it's not impossible to do as an adult. So one of the things that breaks my heart the most is, well, this is life. This is my life, and I just need to accept it. No, you don't. You can absolutely make change for the better. I promise you. And you can believe in yourself. You can trust yourself. You can move forward. You can know your worth, not just hope for your worth, right? And you can have that confidence in self-led leadership, self-led discipline. Also, it's all within your grasp. You just need to take the next step in order to get there, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I don't care if you are, 15, 18, 97, listening to this right now, you absolutely can move forward.
Amen, sister. I agree with you 100%. I'm sitting there, I'm excited. I know that people are encouraged listening to you. I love that how you speak with such authority. And I love that. I love that you speak with authority and compassion. So I pray that people really heard that and grasped what you were speaking and how you shared it and even sharing your heart. And that they will decide to become daughters of God and walk and lead with confidence. So I will definitely add your information to the show notes. Thank you, Nellie, for gracing the Empower to Empower You podcast today. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you heard her. Please connect with Nellie. Nellie, did you have any? Well, they can find your resources on your website. You've already said that. So, didn't know if you had a podcast or books that you wanted to highlight or anything like that. But all your courses
Yep.
on your website. Right, got it.
Everything's there.
Right. So please connect with Nellie. Listen, you got to do that right now. Have a sense of urgency. Maybe you're thinking, you know what? I'm pretty confident. I'm leading. I'm doing the things. Maybe you're thinking this is good, but it doesn't apply to me. There's something that she said that applies to everybody. Maybe you have a daughter who needs to hear this information, or you have a best friend who has a daughter, or just another woman that you know, a friend. Share this website with them, nellieharden.com. I will add it on the show notes. And I know that you were encouraged by this episode. This is B. Wendy Jackson, your lovely host today. Listen, have an amazing, empowering week, encouraging week on purpose. And I'll be back next time with another inspiring message.